how do you manage the customer empowerment, or what does it mean to you in today's climate with everything going on? I know it's like you're saying it's very different in startup versus, your very old traditional, but what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's about providing education and choice or options. Um, if someone's facing a problem, clearly explaining, identifying, and pointing to the problem rather than hiding it is key. And then providing them solution options. Even if they're bad solution options, customers will always take choices over no choice. So, I can't deposit this check for whatever reason. I didn't sign it or blah, blah, blah. We just don't accept that format. And then saying, this is why, this is what, and this is how to solve it. And one of those solutions can be to contact the support center, right? Like that can definitely be one of those solutions. But you'll find that most people will, if you say, hey, all you need to do is just change this thing and then take the picture again, they'll just do that first. And so that's how you empower customers. That is an oversimplified way of explaining it, essentially.
I'm one of the few people I think, or I thought, used Xennials as an example, from a generational gap or, group. And so I think because we're similar age, you have millennials, but I like to make sure, people understand there's also the Xennials, which is the top group, or from an age perspective without aging us, just because it really were people who didn't grow up on the technology, but learned it. Because I'm always, people always blame millennials for all these changes we're making. We've, now gotten rid of napkins or, whatever it is that now we've changed in society. But I think it's interesting to look at the generations too, and how it's impacting and how they want to be treated differently, especially when you start now to look at how, lots of kids are getting their information from TikTok or, other types of information channels that aren't always necessarily fact, or they're, shown information in very different ways than you're used to. So.
Yeah, the whole generational conversation is always a heated topic because there's a lot of doctrine on it not being a thing. But I think obviously from marketing and obviously from a conversational perspective, it does help to group age groups because of a quote unquote shared social experience. A lot of people, I tell this, like my parents, the average age of millennial is like 32. People don't realize that. They still think a millennial is 25 eating avocado toast and drinking expensive lattes, which is fair. I do love those things. But like, understand that the millennials are in their 30s and there is a whole new age demographic entering their 20s or in their 20s that is, while they don't have the financial power yet, they do have financial power of their parents, and they are making market decisions and changes, i.e. TikTok, as you just mentioned. And so companies need to be prepared, and it's in our government needs to be prepared to understand that millennials are older than we think they are, and we're starting to gain more power than people think that millennials have.
Yeah, millennials was such a dirty word, and when you looked at it, I think it's so funny to look at and say, if millennials were such a bad word, and I look and say, oh, well, the 90s were 10 years ago. No, it was 30 years ago. And now I feel old. But it's definitely something where now then you look at Gen Z and their buying power and where they're headed to and how they operate. And my parents were always really not annoyed, but I used to raise my hand to talk because I'd always ask why, right? You'd always want to know what's really going on versus just taking what has been told to you as fact. So it's definitely, now you're seeing, I think, even more of a change in dynamic of the younger generation too, from a Gen Z perspective.